heavy. So, actually, dropping this tile off, we're selling this building as condos, and I have a punch list of items that I am finalizing. We're closing on one of the units tomorrow, so making sure that everything is finished, everything is checked off the list, so we can close. Okay. Now you might remember last time we were here in a previous episode, I had a little plug, and maybe it worked, because all 3 units are actually now under agreement. Now the strategy behind this building was a little different than what we normally do. We normally have a pretty solid plan as to, whether we want to condo something or rent something as I fall down the stairs holding this, but this building originally was intended to rent. And so we bought this building, renovated the units because they were in really rough shape, and then we rented out the units. So, and there goes the light. And everything was going great. We were getting fantastic rents. Cash flow was pretty good, but the overall strategy was the building came with a lot next door, and our plan was to develop that lot. And what happened was we ran into a little bit of issues with some of our neighbors, and that's a entirely separate episode that we can go into. But long story short, didn't end up really doing what we wanted to do there. So we ultimately decided, all right, the cash flow wasn't as good here as we really wanted it, because we were going to use proceeds from that development to kind of pay down some of the debt on this building and then significantly increase our cash flow here. But because that didn't happen, we decided to ultimately condo the building and sell off each unit individually. Now, you might be wondering why we didn't just sell the units off when we first finished the work. And obviously there are pros and cons to both flipping and renting. We typically do both. It depends on the project, and every project's different, and we run the numbers and try to form the best decision we can when determining whether we want to rent something or sell something. But there are pros and cons, so I'd like to try to hit on some of those pros and cons for both flipping and renting and help you guys make a decision when underwriting a deal. This one is done, actually. What's up? How are you? Yeah, it's this one. I think you just need I think that just pops off, and it's just a Allen key. So, in my opinion, these are the top 3 pros to flipping. Pro number 1, it's short term. Once you are out, you're out. Flipping, you buy a place, you do the renovations or whatever work you're gonna be doing, and then you sell it and you're done. With a long-term rental, you're typically holding it for a long time. You have to do maintenance or ongoing maintenance, dealing with tenants, etc. So, once you're out, you're out. Pro number 2, you can get a quick cash infusion. With a rental, it's the long game. You're banking on rents appreciating over time, and you're looking forward to cash flow, but you're not gonna get that quick cash infusion that you're going to get by flipping. You sell the asset and you get a large amount, hopefully if you make a lot of money, cash into your bank account, which you obviously have to pay taxes on. And pro number 3, and we already touched upon it, once you're out, you're out. Obviously, different states have different requirements for builder warranties, etc., but you don't have to deal with the property, you don't have to deal with people calling you and saying that a toilet broke, or an alarm is chirping that needs to be swapped out, or a battery needs to be replaced. Once you finish the work and you sell it, you're done. Making sure everything is checked off. All right, anything? I think I'm gonna head out. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Darren, appreciate it. So now that we've covered the top 3 pros to flipping, let's talk about the cons. So I'd say the number one con for flippers or flipping in general is taxes. Here in the United States, if you flip a property, you're going to pay short-term capital gains or what they call ordinary income, which is usually much, much higher than long-term capital gains, which you will pay when you own a rental property and you sell. Con number two for flipping, I would say it's high risk, right? Flipping in general is riskier than owning rental property. Owning rental property, it's a stable asset. You have income coming in every month, whereas flipping, you have a lot of expenses all at once. Market conditions can change pretty quickly. You can go over budget on your construction. Yes, you can go over budget on construction with a rental property, but it can be absorbed over a much longer period of time. And finally, con number three for flipping is stress. Flipping is stressful. You're typically under timelines, strict timelines. You want to hit the market at a particular season or during a particular season or month. Here in Boston or here in the Northeast, it's more the hotter times of the year are spring and fall. If you come on the market in the middle of the summer or the middle of the winter, it could be much slower. Cost overruns, making sure that you hit those monthly interest payments every month, which you don't have any income coming in to support that or offset that. It's just generally a stressful industry to be in. By the way, if you don't have a car with a heated steering wheel, I highly recommend it. It feels really, really nice. We'll see if this one works. It's really small. So the deal with this property is we bought this as a rental with the intent to keep it as a rental. It's 8 units. It was very underperforming when we bought it. Needed a lot of work, a lot of capital improvements. So purchased the property about 1.5 years ago, spent a good portion of the time fixing the building up. And now we're in the process of actually doing our lease up. So we have 6 of the 8 units currently leased up. Once we hit the 8th unit, we're gonna be looking to do a refinance, recapitalize our money, hopefully pull some of our money that we invested out, pay off some of our investors, and then have a cash flowing rental property with 0 money out of pocket. Which leads me into the top 3 pros for owning rental property. Pro number 1 is passive income. Our primary goal with owning rental property is passive income. It's cash flow. It's all about cash flow. I don't care how much the building's worth unless I'm looking to refinance or sell it. I want a paycheck every month to help supplement my income. And that's our primary goal for owning rental property. Pro number 2 to owning rental property, taxes. Just like taxes was a con to flipping, taxes is a pro to owning rental property. Long-term capital gains is huge when it comes to rental property, where you're gonna get taxed at a much lower tax bracket if you hold a rental property for at least a year before you sell it. So if you do end up selling rental property, you pay much less taxes than you would flipping. Another key to owning a rental property is opportunity zones. In short, the federal government has designated certain areas across the United States as opportunity zones where they want to incentivize developers to come in and build new construction or renovate existing homes in these areas to help improve the areas. These have significant tax incentives associated with them, whereas if you hold the building for up to 10 years and sell it, all the gains are tax-free. And then the final pro to owning rental property is just long-term wealth. The goal is to have a portfolio of property that cash flows significantly long-term, that I can pass down to my kids, and then their kids are all set, and my grandkids are all set. It's just a generational wealth thing. You're not going to get that by flipping. You're really only going to obtain that or meet those goals for long-term generational wealth by owning rental property. So Ray sent me on this task to install a new handle here, and he sent me these screws, and they are way too long. So he sends me to do impossible things. Remember that, Ray. So this is actually my first rental property that I bought back in 2008. I had graduated college in 2007, and I was working at my corporate job, and I was actually renting, this is the building, and I was renting in the building behind there, which is actually really funny. And it was the bottom of the market in the 2008 crash. And so I pretty much had the pick of any rental property I wanted in the city, any multifamily. I was just sick of paying rent. I wanted to have some rental income and get some experience. So found this place, picked it up with an FHA loan. I only put 3% down. I think I ended up only having to put $20,000 down to buy this. And so I ended up living in one unit with a roommate and then renting out the other two. So I house hacked my way into my first rental property. So ended up living for nothing. All of the rent covered all of my expenses. So was able to save a ton, and then met Ray and kind of formed the business. But this was kind of the first one, the story behind it. So I guess that leads me into the cons of owning rental property. Con number one, dealing with tenants. It's a lot of work, right? Dealing with a lot of different personalities, different living situations, roommate situations. Things break, some tenants complain too much, some tenants don't complain at all. We don't manage our own buildings ourselves, we hire property managers to do it for us, so that definitely takes a lot of burden off of us when it comes to dealing with tenants on a day-to-day basis. But definitely takes time to kind of iron out the details and the processes and how to handle those different situations. Con number two, lack of liquidity. Rental property is great, you get that cash flow, but unless you can refinance and pull some of that initial investment out, a lot of liquidity is locked up in some of these buildings. Making sure that you have enough cash available to maintain the property if anything comes up, but knowing that a lot of that equity is going to be locked into the property unless you do a cash out refinance is definitely something that you have to strategically think about when you're buying rental property. And finally, con number three, just the general upkeep of a rental property can kind of wear at you, right? You're always going to be fixing things. Things are always going to be breaking. Even if you do renovations and update kitchens and bathrooms, there's wear and tear on these buildings, especially depending on the type of tenant, how many people are living in a unit, how old they are, the age. If you have a building full of college kids, that there's going to be additional maintenance and upkeep that you're going to have to deal with. So just the general upkeep, it is a con, but again, it's something that you can handle based on the type of building, how many people, etc. No mail, just usually here. That's what I usually come to get, is the mail. So what's our strategy and what are we currently looking to buy? It used to be a pretty good mix. We used to do a decent amount of flipping, as they say, or condo development. And then we also used to do a decent amount of rental acquisitions as well. I think since COVID, our strategy has shifted a little bit, and we've focused a little bit more on the rental side, growing the rental portfolio. Because of COVID, a lot of people left the city. The market kind of stagnated a little bit. And so we kind of refocused what our actual strategy is, what our long-term goals are. And I think that is, what I said earlier in terms of the long-term wealth and cash flow, et cetera. So we've shifted in 2021 to more of a rental acquisition. Our goal is to acquire more rentals. That's not to say we'll do a flip or a condo project if the right opportunity comes across, but that's kind of what we're focused on as of today. Now, as far as how you should decide whether or not you want to get into flipping or buying rental property, I think it's really up to you and what your specific goals are. If you're looking to get some quick cash and get your feet wet right away, flipping might be for you. But if you are looking for that long-term cash flow, or you're looking to build that long-term wealth and acquire more and more assets over time, then maybe you want to get into rentals. Either way, you can't go wrong with the strategy. It's really personal preference and what your goals are. But house hacking is a really good way to get your feet wet. It allows you to buy something, live in it, do some light renovations to get your feet wet on what things cost, working with contractors, etc. And at the same time, you're able to rent a unit or two out and get experience on the landlord side. So you kind of get the best of both worlds by doing a house hack. And then going from there, you can decide on what you like better. Do you like dealing with tenants? Or do you like the renovation? So then you say, all right, I'm gonna try out a light flip. Or maybe you'll say, all right, I want to buy another rental building. But either way, I think that house hacking is a really good way to get your feet wet on both the renovation side as well as the rental side. So if you have any questions about flipping, development, rentals, hit me up in the comments below. Happy to reach out and answer any questions that you might have. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, or if you just enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that bell button to get notified of future content, and we will see you on the next one. Dude, why are you following me? I gotta go do some work. End vlog.